Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. Bex here today to share my Nonfiction November TBR. If you're not sure what Nonfiction November is, it is a month-long reading initiative that was started by Olive over at Book Olive, and it's this year hosted by a team of people so that it can exist across multiple social media platforms. The entire point is to get you to read nonfiction this month, whether you read it all the time or you've never picked up a nonfiction book before. As long as you read one nonfiction book this month, you are considered a participant. This is my 5th year participating. Started in 2016, which is kind of crazy to think about. And I am someone that loves nonfiction, so I just read exclusively that genre for the entire month. There are 4 very general prompts which you can interpret however you want, and I use it to help me decide what books on my TBR to pick since I have so many choices. And I'll be sharing those 4 picks with you, as well as a couple other books that I would like to make some more progress in, or at least try and read as much as possible in the month. There is no way I'm going to read all of these books, but always good to have some options. The first prompt this year is time, and for that I have chosen How to Survive a Plague, the story of how activists and scientists tamed AIDS by David France. For those of you who are frequent watchers of my videos, you will recognize this cover. This is the final book that I need to read for the Shelf Sisters series this year. This is the final book that Les picked out for me to read, so I am running out of time because I only have 2.5 months to read it. And it also pertains to the subject of the book, in which people were running out of time. The government was not reacting responsibly to the emergence of HIV/AIDS, and so this book follows all the grassroots organizations that really put in the work to try and help save people. I know there is a documentary that goes alongside this book, so I may try and watch that if I have time during the month. Otherwise, I'll at least try and get through as much of this book as possible because I need to finish it by the end of the year. Also, side note, love this cover. Every time I look at it, I'm reminded of how cool it is. The second prompt is movement, and for that I've chosen Parkland, Birth of a Movement by Dave Cullen. So in this case, the word is actually in the title of the book, so this was a pretty easy pick for me. It's also very reasonable length as well. So this is focusing on the students who were in the Marjory Stoneman Douglas shooting, or the Parkland shooting as it's also referred to a few years ago, and how they put together the March for Our Lives while also going through the PTSD of being part of this mass shooting. Dave Cullen wrote Columbine, which I read a number of years ago, and that focused very much on the shooting and the shooters, whereas this book does not focus on the shooter at all. It is completely about the students that were affected and those that came together to start this movement. So I'm really looking forward to reading something that will hopefully be very sad, but also very uplifting as well. Third is Buzz. For that, I have chosen The Mockingbird Next Door, Life with Harper Lee by Maria Mills. In this case, I took Buzz as sort of the buzz around a new book release. And unfortunately with this one, the buzz, although positive at first, became negative very quickly. Les and I both received a copy of this book from the publisher back in 2014 or 2015. We respected Harper Lee as an author, and so we were very curious to see what this book had in it because Harper Lee is such a private person. And then things started to spread about how the author may have manipulated the situation, because in this case, the author says with their permission, Harper Lee and her sister's permission, that she moves in next door and over the next 18 months gets to know the two of them, and she wrote this book based off of that. And people were saying that maybe that wasn't true, things have been manipulated a bit. I have not looked into exactly how that all ended up going down, whether or not it was ever proved one way or another, but I have held on to this book because I was still curious about reading it and forming my own opinions and doing my own research afterwards to find out, is this buzz true, this bad buzz? Was what I was hearing accurate, or was it something that got blown out of proportion? We'll see. So I'm gonna finally read this book because it's been enough time that I feel like it is the right time. The final prompt is discovery, and for that I chose The Little Book of Hygge, The Danish Way to Live Well by Mike Viking. And I did look up his name and how to pronounce it because I had been pronouncing it incorrectly previously because I wasn't sure, so it is in fact Mike Viking. This is a small coffee table book, really. It was given to me as a gift a couple years ago, and it's all about Hygge, and it's not particularly wordy. This page doesn't have many pictures, but then there's also stuff like this, where there's, things like this. So I thought it would be a fun way to discover what Hygge is, because it's one of those words that you hear a lot and you think you may understand it, but this will be for me to discover if that is the case. And I also feel like it'll be a nice balance to the other books because it does have pictures and it's really cute and pretty. I wanted to mention that I will be continuing reading And the Band Played On by Randy Shilts. This is about politics, people, and the AIDS epidemic. This is a hefty book. It's over 600 pages long. The font is very tiny, and I am currently about 35 pages in. I would love to read this book, so I'm going to try my damnedest to do it, but it's very slow going. There's a lot of information jammed in on each page, but it is a nonfiction book, so it's one I can continue reading during November, that I want to continue reading. It will also be interesting to compare what I read in here to How to Survive a Plague and see where there might be some information overlap. It might be a bit redundant to be reading two books on the same topic at the same time, but I have found this year that if I do that, where I read multiple nonfiction books that kind of cover the same thing, there can be some interesting connections that you can make between the two. So hopefully something like that will happen as I'm reading this and the other book. I also have an audiobook ready to go, and that is How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. This has been on my TBR list for a long time, but I really feel that it's a book that I should be listening to in 2020. This will be my option when I don't have time to sit down in my chair and read, and I need to be cleaning or going for a walk or a run or something. Love always having an audiobook as an option. This one has been very popular this year, and I feel like the title of the book is pretty self-explanatory on what it's going to cover. I'm sure I will learn a lot from it. I also want to mention that there is a group book this year. It is The Yellow House by Sarah M. Broom, and I will not be reading that group book, not because I don't want to, but because I've actually already read it this year, and that never happens to me. I think every time I join a readathon and there happens to be a group book, I just don't really feel like picking it up, or I'd rather read other books that I already have. So in this case, I will not be reading the book, but if that is a book that you are interested in reading, you can certainly join in. I will link the announcement video down below where all discusses the details of how they're going to be tackling the book if you do want to read along. Those are the 6 books that I would like to attempt to read in November. If you are also joining in, please let me know what books you're looking forward to tackling in the comments down below. As always, all of our links are in the down bar. You can go check those out if you feel so inclined. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you later.